to nobody.
Welcome back to Two Nobodies, everyone. Rupesh is here again. Really happy that you folks are joining me. Love that you folks are subscribing and enjoying the podcast and all the various episodes and where my mind wanders. Well, my mind is wandering in a really cool direction today. I have a wonderful guest to talk about entrepreneurship, sustainability, really cool businesses like Vermicomposting and a sprouting business and laughter yoga, which my wife was like, that is a thing. And so I didn't actually quite know that. So I'm really excited to talk to our next guest, Cathy Nesbitt. Cathy, welcome to Two Nobodies. Thanks for joining me here on a Saturday morning.
Oh, Rupesh, I'm excited to be here. Happy to be a nobody with you.
Perfect. I'm glad you said that because some people I think get a little worried about like, wait, I'm a nobody. I'm like, we're all nobodies. We're all learning. We don't know everything, right? So that's really the premise. So I appreciate you joining. I first got to start off with like your energy, just like the energy in your emails. Like just I kind of watched a few of some of your other podcast recordings, and you have this like just enthusiasm, this zest, this sort of this spirit about you. And I just kind of wonder, like, where does that come from? Like, is that something that you've? No. It's fake. Well, I want to learn how to be fake then, because it's a pretty damn good energy. So,
you know, it's a practice. I mean, not the energy. The energy. I'm the Energizer Bunny for sure.
Yeah.
You know, I before BC. I'll just say BC. I was doing about 100 to 200 events per year.
Wow.
And if, you know, my husband and I would go and we would be exhibiting, and people would say, "Wow, you know, you better slow down. You're going to be exhausted by the end." And he's like, "She still has to run circles around the kitchen before bed." Like, don't worry about her.
Yeah.
Because energy gets energy. I think that's what people don't understand. When you're like, "Oh, I'm so tired. How could I can't do that." It's like, well, then that's when you need to get up and do it. Because then motion gets more.
Do you feed off of other people, or is it something that you
people
have
are
to
always
feel
feeding
yourself?
off me. People are like, "Oh, I feel myself." No, I'm totally self-propelled.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the laughter, you know, it's now, I've been laughing since 2012. That's when I was introduced to laughter yoga. I know we're kind of jumping around in my story.
No, that's
but
okay.
Yeah, it's fun. Why not? Who wants to go in order? But I've really been laughing since 2020.
Okay.
Right? With this cuckoo time.
Yeah.
And I needed it. Like, I had all those events, all those people.
Yeah.
I love people. And I need people. And then I didn't even have a laughter club because I said, "Universe, I don't want to have a free laughter club. I do enough for free." And and so I kept getting paid gigs. People were like, "I want to come to your laughter club." I'm like, "Well, I don't have one. I keep getting paid gigs." Like, how cool. Like, listen up, folks. If you want to do something, do what you're doing and then get paid for it. How fun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, the cuckoo time. And so I started my laughter club online. I have my free offering now every Tuesday at 9:30. And I started my laughter club because I needed to laugh. So I say that I've been really laughing since 2020, because now it's really part of my health plan. It's something I do. It energizes me. How can it not? Because you can't just ha-ha. You have to so you can continue ha-haing, right? Because we're exhaling. We're getting rid of all that old stale energy, the oxygen. Usually we're shallow breathing, right? So I don't know. It's something like 25% is fresh air, and the 75% is just like old stale air, you know, careening through our body. So laughter, like, it all gets out because we're like, ha 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 ha. Oh, we're out of breath, and our stomach hurts and our cheeks hurt. And so we breathe, and it's just magic. And since we're talking about laughter and my energy, we're secreting the love drugs. Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. Yes.
So does that just happen even if you're not actually feeling like joy? Like, even if you just kind of fake laugh, like that all gets released?
Absolutely. So the body doesn't know the difference between real and simulated laughter. And I did this because it's like the mind does, right? Because the mind will be like, "What are you doing? This is ridiculous. Stop it. You look ridiculous."
Yeah.
Because right? Because anything new, we're doing something new. It's like, "Ooh, this is weird. How do I look? Am I okay? No, you look weird. Stop it." because the brain wants to conserve energy and it wants to keep us safe. So it's not really about growth and getting out of the box, because that's not its job. So we have to override the brain, and the body's like, pew, 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 secreting all those chemicals. We're in charge of our own pharma. And then we're breathing fully. So again, back to stress, or how we usually breathe. When we're stressed, we're not breathing properly. Our body doesn't get what it needs. Our brain needs 25% more as an operating principle. When we go into stress, we don't need our answering machine, right? We've gone into our reptile brain.
Right, yeah.
Like here we've jumped right in, Rupesh.
No.
Hello, everybody.
No, that's great. When you started this during the pandemic, were you concerned that, like, were you thinking, is anybody going to even show up? I mean, you did this for yourself, right? So I guess, did it matter whether folks joined you or not, or but were you worried about whether people would catch on? Like, I don't know, how popular was laughter yoga? Like, has it been? I don't even know.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Laughter yoga started in 1995 by a medical doctor in India, Dr. Madan Kataria, and his goal is world peace. And I believe now, like, kind of looking back, we can't connect the dots back. We can only look back and then connect the dots, right? We can't, like, people are like, oh, you should connect the dots, but how? We can't. We can't see the dots yet. Okay, so in 1995, I don't think he had any idea it would be the global movement that it is. I'll talk about that in a sec. Such a huge impact. And I believe laughter yoga was started then so that we could grow this movement for this time now. We have this global mental health tsunami. Everybody's in this. So laughter yoga. So before 2020, there was very few opportunities to laugh online, right? Like everything else, we've really adapted pretty well. There was Skype laughter, but it was more in person. So local things, laughter clubs. And North America's a late adopter. So yoga's kind of just arriving, right? So laughter yoga's in the ocean still. It's just arriving. But it's very big in Asia. It's very big in a lot of countries. About 120 countries now are laughing. It's a global movement.
That's interesting.
Isn't it?
Because, like, I would say, well, it's interesting because I don't see, like, especially because if you're saying it came from India, it came from Asia, like, I think there's some cultures who are, like, they're not always, like, necessarily, like, laughing cultures. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it's something that they would do in a fake way, perhaps, you know what I mean? Or force yourself to laugh. I could be wrong, but it's just maybe an impression or sense I get. But so it's interesting that that's sort of originating there, and you're saying it's big there. Like, I could see it being popular here, I guess, but I wouldn't have thought so in Asia. But
and it's now the demand for laughter is. I get requests every day for paid gigs. Because corporations are having me in for, just team, we're coming back into and people have forgotten, like, the past 2 years, being isolated and on our own and just in Zoom. People have forgotten how to interact in person, and it's
100%.
I have a psychology degree, so I'm fascinated by people. I love people, and I just really love watching, and I love connecting. I'm an empath. So I just feel everybody, and I just float around and have this joyful life. But it took a long time for me to get here. Laughter yoga was the final piece, I believe, that gave me permission to be me. I turned 60 last year. It gave me permission. Yeah, sorry, I'll let you.
What does that mean when you say that gave you permission to be you? What does that mean?
I think I can't talk for everyone, but I will. We walk around with these different personas. Like, we're at home, we have a way, and then we're out and we have a way. Like, we do. If the voice in your head, anyone listening, is going, I don't have a different person. You do. Even when we're on our own, we're a different person.
We all do, for sure. Yeah.
So as I've had my worm business, and I know we'll talk about that too. Yeah. And so for that was like totally eco thing, very serious, heavy mission, I believe, that I have, and I'm offering people worms in their house. And I believe that's why I was put on earth. So it's a really heavy mission. And it took about 10 years before I realized people didn't want what I had. But I was slogging away, and I was humiliated a lot of times because people would say stories to me about worms. The word words are very powerful. So worm, usually it's like you've opened a can of worms. Like it's always a bad thing. Like a parasite, a computer worm, like tapeworm. Worm is a bad word.
I never even thought about that. Like I've never interpreted worm that way. I love worms. I mean, yeah, but that's interesting that people would have had that sort of perception of that word. So,
and Rupesh, I'm meeting people again with a psych degree. As adults, lots of people who were maybe traumatized after a rainy day by a sibling or at the schoolyard or somewhere. They had an incident or maybe a fishing mishap. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something happened as a child with worms. And so if you were traumatized, it seems ridiculous if you never had that experience. But if you did, you're not as an adult looking to have that critter in your house, like that experience.
Yeah.
You're like, no. You wouldn't even like, there's so many things to be aware of. You just wouldn't be aware of it.
Let alone having 1,000 of them in like this box, right? I mean,
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of work and a lot of, there was a lot of wounded times where I really had to just put on that brave, freaky mask that like, oh, it's fine. I don't care. You can tell me your horror stories about worms at my booth while I'm trying to, be positive. Like, oh, or, just people could tell me how much they hated worms because everybody hates worms, right?
Right.
Right. So it was, anyway,
Yeah.
so then laughter yoga came. And then I realized, oh my gosh, it's not even about me. It's not about me. This is their stuff. Oh, and I'm just here. I believe that then it shifted something. The laughter helped me stay in my worm business. Like 2012, one more person said, ew, worms in the house. And I heard it. Like you can imagine 10 years prior, like many, many people had said, I was doing hundreds of events. Lots of people said, ew. And I was just discounted them. Never mind, move along.
Yeah.
But that one person, I don't know why it hit my heart. And I was like, uh-oh. So that I could be introduced to laughter. I was ready, I guess. And the very next day I was introduced to laughter yoga. So it's just like my path is, and I want people to be aware that the universe is providing them cues too.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, then the laughter yoga was allowed you to see that a lot of the reactions you were getting from the worm business and people's reactions to worms was really their thing. Like it was sort of like their own insecurities kind of showing up, and like the laughter, like yoga allowed you to kind of see that it's them. It's not really you. It's not what you're doing. Is that sort of what I'm hearing?
Yes, and I was known as the worm woman, so people would call me the worm woman, and I was selling worms, and I wore the moniker like I loved it. I was like, yes, I'm the worm woman, right? I sell worms by the pound. It's a ridiculous business model, by the way, too. Because I didn't have business savvy before I started my worm business. I just had a mission.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's why it works, by the way.
That's amazing.
Right? When you just own it and you're like, okay, no, you need this. So you just barrel ahead and, kind of despite the resistance. And not repeat customers and a whole bunch of flaws in the business model. But anyway, laughter yoga. And so I was doing a lot of networking before with my worm business, but then I stopped because, you see the same people. It's like they all know me. If they want worms, I'm the only one.
They know where to go. Yeah.
So then when I got into laughter, I was like, when I came back out networking again, I was introducing myself as laughter, and I didn't even realize, like, you get in your mind that everyone knows you. Oh, everyone knows me. And so I thought they knew the worm part, and I was just introducing the laughter. So many of them only knew the laughter. And I thought, this is cool. Now I make them laugh. Ha, ha, ha. They like me. And then I can say, oh, I have worms too. And it's, the 21st anniversary now of my worm business.
And do you find that people are, when you present the worm business now, after you getting people laugh, like, are people gravitating towards it a little bit more?
Absolutely. 20 years, so 21 years, 20 is easier to say, or whatever. It sounds more significant somehow. Yes, we're at a different time. We have this, again, global climate crisis. We do.
100%. Yeah.
Our food, it's broken.
Yeah.
Canada, we've destroyed the soil. North America, really, probably
Mm-hmm.
everywhere, but here, particularly with our corn, wheat, and soy, monocrop, whatever. It's a whole big problem.
Yes.
I have these
Yeah.
hopeful solutions. What I'm proposing is for people to convert their food scraps and paper on site
Yeah.
in a bin. It's aerobic. It doesn't smell. The worms don't get out if you look after them. All of those things. I mean, it really isn't rock. I didn't create it. It's just something I'm marketing. And it's a beautiful solution, and I started my business because in 2002, the landfill for the Greater Toronto Area closed.
Yeah, the Kill Valley landfill site.
Kill Valley landfill, thank you.
I've been there before.
Right?
Yeah.
Now
I used to live in Toronto, and we used to work for the city of Toronto, and they gave me a tour of the Kill Valley landfill site, and it got awards, right, because of all the methane gas it captures and uses for power. But yes, absolutely know that site for sure. So
yeah, I kind of joke and say, the government didn't really like it. This was governments deciding, not the people. When I say about what I'm going to say, 1,000 trucks were making the way from Toronto to Michigan. And I say shame on us as Canadians, for shipping our garbage out of the country. And double shame on the Americans for accepting our garbage for cash. But it's not the people, right? The governments were like, and I was like, 6 million people in the Greater Toronto Area, half living in condos and whatever, without space to do composting. And I know that not everyone composts that can. It's fine. I'm just here to raise awareness. I think that's my role, just to let people know this is an option. I don't care if you do it or don't. I do, but I can't be attached to that because not everybody's going to. I'd be crumpled in the corner. I really would need to laugh. But so the laughter, really. So the laughter has just allowed me to laugh longer, louder, harder, because it's necessary. And now I'm able to, it helped me to become more resilient. And during this past 2 years, I've really taken a deep dive into why is laughter the best medicine? Why does everyone say that? Because it's true. We used to know. We used to know that. And it's something that you can only do when you're safe. Here's why. Because when you're laughing full on, you're lost. You're totally present. If you're standing up, your knees get weak. If you're with your buddies and you're laughing,
you're completely vulnerable, you're just
right?
Like,
right? Yeah. So imagine like in prehistoric times, like you'd be eaten by the same, like, oops, you got me. I can't run away. Right? So that doesn't happen, right? That wouldn't happen. So now, same. And that's why we need the Laughter Club, because it really has been bred out of us. This wonderful magic medicine that's in us. And it just fills me up as soon as I think of that. I'm like, world peace, everybody laughing, and I know the effect it's had on me. I feel so great. And it's energy. It's only energy, and it may be simulated. We'll say simulated instead of fake because that sounds better. It feels better too. Because when we say fake, it's like, oh, it's fake. And people say, oh, I tried laughter yoga. Maybe you tried it once and it is weird the first time. It is.
Well, the word fake has also taken a dark turn over the last few years, right? Like, anyways.
True. Right. Yes. So, right. Thank you. Yes, that's true. Yeah. Right. It's the thing to meanings, right? The attachment to meanings. Yeah. Or the energy. So laughter is simply an energy. When we're laughing, it doesn't take our problems away. It just helps us cope better so that we're not in stress. Stress is related to 90-something% of today's ailments. 90%. So if we can manage our stress, even for a moment, how beautiful. So here's what happens. The amygdala is where the stress is held in the brain. Yeah. It hasn't evolved since prehistoric times. And at that time, it was that was great. It needed to keep us safe. That was perfect. That's what its role was, to keep us safe. So now, when we go into stress, our body acts as if we're in imminent danger. We're probably not going to die. We might sometimes, but we're probably not going to die if we lose our keys.
Right. Yeah.
But our body secretes cortisol, adrenaline. We're not breathing, right?
There's not that good regulation, right?
Everything tenses, so we can get out of there. That's great if you are being chased. That's awesome. Thank goodness. Or if your house is on fire, thank God you go into
for sure
that mode, because you don't need to think. You need to just act.
Yeah.
Hallelujah for that part of our brain. But we need to override that, and that's the practice of it. Our brain is wired for negative. That's why the news works. It
Mm.
keeps us in that same groove. Oh, you think that's bad? Oh, la 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 la. Ever been in a
Mm-hmm.
group of people and then you just spiral down? And it's just like you can't even get out. You're just like you can't wait to tell your negative. Oh, you guys, what? Wait till you hear what happened to me. I want to
Everything
turn that.
feels like it's set up that way these days, right? Like we're just, the system is set up where it forces us to kind of spiral downwards and get caught up in that.
Only if we allow it. If we don't, if we're not
Yes.
conscious of it,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
We need to again override our brain. It's just like the iceberg thing. It's only a little
Mm.
bit of what we're operating with. There's so much more. And not to get all woo-woo. Laughter just allows us to not be woo-woo, just to laugh, and we know we feel good. Hallelujah. And we get connected. I do school workshops, and I wasn't for 2 years. My first one back in school was, I think it was March of 2022, so last March, grade 2. So these poor children hadn't even been to school, and they were damaged. It was Scarborough, so Toronto was Scarborough. Lots of apartments and lots of immigrant families, and I thought, man, so they hadn't had, maybe they were first generation immigrants, so maybe their parents weren't fluent in English. So living in the apartment, don't touch the button, like you have to stay in. I don't know, I just thought maybe an added fear because they were just, wow. So I thought, holy, we just need laughter everywhere first, because I really want people to care about the planet. But if you're having a mental crisis, you can't.
You can't. You're not thinking
You're
about
not
something
capable.
global. You're thinking about yourself, right? Yeah, you're just surviving for sure.
You're just like, waving your little
Yeah.
flag, like, help
Yeah.
me. Planet, I'm sorry, I can't help you.
Yeah. Yeah. You were saying that with your laughter yoga that you feel that like you need to be in order to laugh, you kind of need to be in that safe space. Do you find that online versus in person, like do people feel more safe online or do people feel more safe in person?
That's a great question. That's a really great question. So your online works beautifully because you have gallery view and you can come and go. If you don't like it, you can zoom out. So it's easy. You're kind of in control of your environment. So I think people really like online. Some people don't have their camera on. I do encourage it, but if people, they're in a really dark space and they just want the energy, come, right? Just come and absorb because it's energy. So it really works online. So I get, right now I get, 20, 30 people to my club every Tuesday. It's free, right?
Wow.
So people can just come. And they don't come every week. I do have a cluster. I have a core, I have some groupies. Because it's super fun, right? I mean, I do it for me, but it's really for everybody. Because when I raise my vibration, I'm raising the vibration of the world. Like the butterfly effect, right?
Yeah.
So
sure.
Imagine us all laughing together. So a laughter session, we didn't talk about that. So why you need to come to Laughter Club is because you're laughing full on. It's not like going to a comedy club where you're laughing for a couple of seconds because you'll miss the next line if you're laughing for too long or too loud. And same with watching a show. You'll miss the next, like it's not that funny that you're laughing your head off, right? It's like, that was clever. Yeah. So with the Laughter Club, there's clapping. So you're clapping. And I thought it was weird at the beginning because I was like, oh, this feels weird. And it is weird. It's okay. It's just, it's training our brain. It's rewiring us so that we can remember, oh yeah, happy time. So when we're clapping palm to palm. So we're activating the meridians. So, and that, just doing this, you get energy. So now whenever I go to a show, I clap like a seal. Like, whoop, 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 yay! Because then I get energized, right? So why do I have energy? Because I do all these
So that form of clapping like this is very different from just like that.
Just like, polite clapping, like,
Okay.
Yeah, it's like, it's okay too, but palm to palm, all those meridians in your hands. Like in our hands and our feet are the kind of the ends of them. Anyway, without getting into the meridians. But there's a rhythm and it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, or ho, ho, ha, ha, ha. And when we say ho and ha, they're attached to our diaphragm. So our belly moves, right? And so ho, just saying ho and ha, those sounds move internally. So when we add them repeatedly, ho, ho, ha, 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 Yeah, now, right? And then so you got a rhythm, you're looking at each other, making eye contact. So between online and in person is, there's no comparison.
I was gonna say, because like you feel the energy,
Oh,
I would think so much
oh,
more, right? Like
you're
you're just,
playing, you're interacting, moving
yeah,
around.
yes,
Oh,
yes,
there's nothing like it. Believe me. If you can go in person, go and play full on, because that's when you get the magic medicine. Like,
yeah,
don't go and think, oh, this is weird, and be stiff standing in the corner. No, go and interact, right? Just and the leader will say, for all the new people, I give, like, allow yourself permission. Just for this time, just allow yourself permission to play. What if we could just play for 30 minutes and laugh and be like kids?
yeah,
Not childish, childlike. Like, you look at kids, maybe not so much today because it's really a heavy time we're in, but you see kids today and they're just like laughing, like they don't have a care in the world. That's what we need to do. I believe, Rupesh, that joy is our birthright. I really believe that we resist. We're the ones that, like, nope, it's because we're comparing. Oh, my life isn't like yours. No, because I'm not you. I don't even want what you want, but, I might think I do because it looks good on you.
yeah. We make things a little too serious sometimes, eh?
Yeah, we're always comparing, and we're always, rather than following our heart, I don't know what we're led by. It's when people have a crisis. Why do you need to hit rock bottom? Why not just oh, I really want to climb Mount Everest one day. Then you better set it, like, do you have a passport? You better take
Yeah,
a step, right? You can't get there if you don't have a passport. Do you have hiking boots? You better get those. You know what I mean? Like, or
yeah,
I want to
yeah.
learn how to drive. Well, then, have you attended a class? You know what I mean? Like, we just need to take steps in what we want to do. And sometimes we get fired up. I could probably get fired up more than most. But we get those ideas where we're like, wow. And we get all alert. We breathe in, we take a deep breath, and we're excited. It might be a job. It might be something we just want to do, somewhere we want to go, something,
Yeah.
a restaurant we want to try, something we're excited. And then we talk ourselves out of it. If we don't
Why do we do that?
I don't know. I'm not, it's that brain. I think it's our brain that wants to keep us safe and not conserve energy. Like, when we go to a family outing, we get together with our family. Our brain knows what to do when our sibling says that thing. We're like, oh yeah, here we go. I'm ready. And you jump into mode, right? It's because our brain wants to conserve energy. It's like, oh, we don't need to do anything new. I know what to do here. I think that's what it is. I think that's why. And I would really encourage people to take risks, because that's where the magic is. It is right outside. I don't want to say comfort zone, because, I know people are really struggling at this time. The idea of, oh, now you want me to disrupt the apple cart again. I absolutely do. I think when we're actually on edge a little bit, that's when we meet people. I would say look up rather than looking down. Don't
I
be
love that.
expecting the bad. Like, ever heard the expression, like, oh, don't get your hopes up too high, because then you'll just be more disappointed. You have farther to fall. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, why not set it way up there? And then if you get halfway, it's like, holy moly, look at what I did. I did this. Like, and celebrate our small wins. Like, celebrate
Yeah.
all the time, every day. You should be like miracles. Oh, I heard a great thing the other day. It was the opportunity of a life. The opportunity of a lifetime comes every week. And
Opportunity of a lifetime comes every week. Yeah.
right? Like, think about it. Have you only had one opportunity of a lifetime?
No.
No.
Yeah.
No, look, we met.
But yeah, and I think people, it's interesting, because I think if you say it like an opportunity of a lifetime, you think of something so grandiose and big, right? You don't think of it as just, it could be a small interaction, or the fact that you and I connected, like that is an opportunity, right? It could be, that's a good way of perceiving things, for sure.
Yeah, like, expect miracles, expect to, because we don't know when we're going to meet somebody that person is going to change the trajectory of our life. We don't know.
Yeah.
grocery store, whatever. That's why I'm saying look up. This might be a shocker if I didn't say it in my intro or in my information with you. I don't have a cell phone. Or if you heard that in one of my other ones, I don't have a cell
No,
phone.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah. Some people stop breathing when I say that, but we're really connected, and I know it's never going anywhere, but when we're on technology, we're looking down. And so we actually have the physiology of depression. Right? We're looking down. We have candy cane neck. We're looking down. We have small physiology. So I'm suggesting that people look up and, stretch out, take up more space, because then that really does, fluff up your aura. One of the activities that I do is actually, in the laughter yoga, like let's make our egg bigger. And when you're going into a space, if you're going into a crowded space, like believe it or not, folks, I don't want to get woo-woo, but, we have kind of like an egg-shaped energy ball around us, or whatever you want to call it. And we felt it. Like if somebody stands in your energy space, if they're too close, you're like, oh, that's uncomfortable. They're in your energy. Yeah. And sometimes it's okay and sometimes not. So before you're going into a crowded space, you can fluff up your aura and, out front, out back, and imagine that you have all this, and then you actually have more space. And when you arrive, it's like a breath of fresh air has come in.
Probably would feel differently, actually, now that I think about it, if I did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to your point about that sort of closed posture, but like the way you said it, like it changes your physiology, or it's like the physiology for depression. I hadn't heard that before, but that's that could make some sense. Yeah.
Our head is so heavy. It's like a bowling ball. I can't remember, like 7 pounds or 5 pounds. I can't remember. It's heavy. Yeah. So imagine our little neck. Like imagine all all the veins and all the things that are holding our big head on. Mm-hmm. And we're looking down all the time. Like that's a pain in the neck. Talk about it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah. I also would encourage people to do more stretches where they're, just opening up their whole frame.
Yeah.
Like never mind doing whatever you have to do, but just like every now and then doing that, because we're out front so much.
You talked about if joy is like you said, a birthright, and we all love that feeling of being happy and joyous. Yeah, I just don't understand why would we not want to have that feeling all the time? Like, why would we want to go into that protective space and kind of talk ourselves out of it? Like, we all do it, right? But I've never really thought about why I would do that for myself, because like we all like, why not be happy like as much as we can, right? But you're saying maybe it's just from an energy perspective, perhaps, or
that's a really big question. That's a really great question to even ponder. Of course, I don't have the answer, because wouldn't I be super duper rich if I did to that one? Yes, here's the magic pill, everyone. I really think that our society has maybe carried such a burden. I think it's coming from, like, it's generational, like who are we to be super happy? And then people try to, hold you down. I don't
deserve this kind of thing mentality.
I don't deserve. So our own ego, and then other ego, like other people saying that we don't, telling us we're not enough. Maybe from childhood. It really, a lot of it, this is really a lot about what I have thought about these things. And I think, which is why I'm able to live the life that I'm living. And I don't want people to think that it's always been this way. I had a very dark, depressive times growing up, teenage years. I would never go back there. Oh my gosh, it's so hard. I can only imagine how hard it is with social media now. Like, I turned 60 last year, so I was growing up at a time when there wasn't cell phones and everything recorded. Sure. Thank God. Yeah. Like some of the growing things that I did, the mistakes that I did, like, imagine I'd never be where I was now. Because people would be like, oh my God, look at those, look at those skeletons. Stop it. Everyone has them, because it's just growing. And I think, so it's all of those kind of experiences that we have growing up. Yeah. I mean, I thought I was in such a dark space. It wasn't even safe to talk about it then. Right. I never called anybody when I felt sad. When I felt so dark, I was like, who would want to listen to me moan and whine? And it's like, who wouldn't want to pull you out? Who wouldn't want to be the one that saved your life if you died that day?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who wouldn't want to be the hero, right? Like, and I think about that. I really, that's one topic that is really close. I can feel emotional now thinking about aside, because it's really connected to a lot of what I do. Like, again, with the vermiculture, with our agriculture, we've put a lot of aside on the land. Pesticide, herbicide, fungicide, anything with aside is death. And it kills like antibiotics kill everything. They don't just kill the,
they're not targeted so much. Yeah.
The bug that you want to get rid of, it's everything. That's why you need to build up again. And we're just like, we'll have to bring it back up, Rupesh. but I think it's an important topic because, really it wasn't talked about. Hallelujah, we're talking about it now. And I really want people to know that if you're struggling anytime, like reach out, somebody cares, and just get out of your space wherever you are. You need to go out and see somebody, go help somebody. If you're feeling so bad, somebody needs your help. So go help somebody and then you'll feel better. And I know sounds really counter, but when we help somebody, then we feel of service and then it pulls us out too.
Right. To be able to want to serve others. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about the worm business.
All right.
And how it got started, and just like as an entrepreneur, like you said, you may have not had that sort of business sense, but like how did that start to develop? So there's multiple layers to that. So I'm curious about how it started, and then just this entrepreneurial journey, I guess, that you've been on.
Yeah. So, I'm from Toronto, so I kind of have had a heart there. That's why I was familiar with everything there. And then I moved out in 93 to Bradford, small town, bought a house, couldn't wait to start gardening and composting, and got my psych degree in 2000. Oh, so 93, a teacher friend asked me to look after her worm bin.
Okay.
So as an avid gardener and composter, I knew the value of the worm compost, but I didn't want worms in my house. Ew. Yeah. Gross. Yeah. But my friend asked me, right? So I was like, and I think that we should try things like, people like, you're not going to like it. Oh, good. Thanks. I'll get on to something else. So I took on the challenge, looked after her worms, kept them alive for the summer, but I had a house full of fruit flies. I would open up the lid, throw the worms in, or throw the food in, close the thing. So I was a fruit fly farmer.
I know the feeling. I feel like, right. Yeah. God.
Yeah. But, fruit flies don't cause any disease for humans.
No.
They're decomposers.
Annoying.
Right? All. They're just a nuisance. We call them bugs, so they're bugs. They bug us. So at the end of that summer, I did get the black gold because that's what I wanted. I wanted the compost. I gave the worms back to my friend. I said, I'm never doing this again. And then I got my psych degree in 2000, 15 years to get my psych degree because I only went at night.
Why'd you want to get a psych degree?
I didn't want to get the degree. I just really liked learning. So I went at night. The paper was a byproduct. I didn't care. But I really liked going at night and meeting the people. I love learning. I really love expanding my knowledge. I really do. And I think that everybody should learn about something, whatever you want to learn. It doesn't have to be university, anything. There's so much opportunity. Anyway, okay. So I get my psych degree and 2000, I get a job at a group home working with challenged adults. Oh, I thought I'd come home. I was a secretary for 20 years. So I get this job at the group home. They have 10 homes and a farm, and they don't compost. And so when I talked to them about composting, the greenhouse manager said, what about worm composting? And I was like, oh no.
Yeah, here we go again.
Oh no, it didn't work last time. Gross. Fruit flies. And I just had that whole fish.
Fruit flies. Yeah.
But then I came home. I was like, wait a minute, it's an institution. They're not getting worms tomorrow. So I came home, internet was around then, and I started to do research. And I was like, so I had been introduced once, right? Didn't like it. I was like, no, this is weird. Like the laughter, remember? And then I started to do research, and I was like, oh, wow. Discovered the magic about the red wigglers. They eat half their weight per day in food scraps. They turn garbage into gold, and a pound of worms turns a pound of worms, and their descendants could transform a ton of waste in a year. And the average Canadian family produces a ton of waste. And I was like, oh my gosh, oh, la la la,
Yeah.
oh my, what, how fun,
light bulb. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
so cool. And
Yeah.
so I was bringing home the food from this. So I worked, what was it? 14-hour shifts. It's not legal anymore. uh, but it was perfect for the clients. So the staff was there in the morning when they woke up. And then when they went to bed, same staff. So they didn't have
Consistency. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So for the
Yeah.
for the clients, it was really a beautiful system. So 3 days on, 4 days off, but really 3 days on, 1 day dead, 3 days off, right?
Yeah.
Because the
Yeah.
first day, like, forget it. You put well, for me, I put out a lot during the 3 days I worked, but I would bring home the compost, right? I would bring home all the compostable material from my house, and I didn't have time to manage it, so I would just dump it in my composter out back. All right, so it's time to harvest, like time to get the compost, and I love composting. I really think that even without worms, composting is just magic. You know, you put in your carrots and whatever, and then you get soil. Wow, that's nature is cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm out there. I'm putting in my last load of scraps, and then I'm taking out the compost out of the bottom. And I have my empty bucket. Oh my gosh, there's red wiggler worms right in my backyard. Wow. And I actually missed a piece. I was trying to get worms. I was like, I should set up a bin again. And then I tried to get worms from 2 places in Toronto, and they didn't have worms. It was August. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. You can't get red wigglers year-round in Canada. And then there they were in my backyard. Again, I was like, oh my gosh, wow. So I grabbed them, you know. Oh, it was just, it felt like, again, there's a message. Like, I couldn't buy them, but here they are waiting right in my yard. How cool. So I grabbed them, and that was the first seed stock of my worm business. Whew. Wow. That it doesn't have, it's not that, like, you know, again, it's still like, it still was worms, everybody. It's still pretty creepy, and here I am still 21 years later. But, you know, over the 21 years, I took on school workshops. Over 75,000 students have seen my presentation. I've diverted several tons from landfill personally to feed my worms. My customers have all diverted from landfill. You know, I just reached over 10,000 customers. You know, I know it's small for like a big.
That's amazing.
But, you know, it's my husband and I. So here's another like cool thing about my business. In 2002, the landfill closed. No, what happened? There was a garbage strike. We talked about the landfill.
Yes,
there was a garbage strike.
Right before the Pope came. Do you remember that?
Right. That's right. Oh my gosh, right. So I forgot about the Pope.
Yeah.
Thanks for adding to my story.
Yeah.
So, you know, Toronto's a world-class city, but not in the summer if there's a garbage strike. So on the news, you know, people were lining up for hours to drop off their garbage. And I'm like, I'm going on a road trip. And I sent out press releases to the Toronto outlets. 5 minutes after sending my press release, a reporter from the Toronto store contacted me and said, thank you for your press release. I wrote an article last week about composting, and I forgot about the apartment dwellers. Can you come on down to the store when you're finished? And I'd like to write about you. And I was like, oh, how cool. I could just go right there. How cool. So I got my first article in the Toronto Star July 18th, 2002. I called up my husband. I'm like, yay, I got an article in the Toronto Star.
Yeah.
Because that's my market, right? Condo dwellers.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm on my way home. I just got downsized. And I was like, oh. Like now, okay, so here's how I react now. I can tell you how I reacted then. But now I'm like, oh, couldn't he have just got downsized tomorrow so I could celebrate my article in the Star? But at the time, it was scary. Yeah. Oh, scary monsters. It's like, oh, how can I celebrate when now we have no income? Yeah. But still
did that push you even further then to be like, okay, I got to accelerate this then at that moment? Or?
Well, I was in it already. I was in it 6 months already. I was in my business, and I decided I didn't want to have a part-time job. Or a full-time job and do it part. I was all in. I had a solution. This was important. People needed what I had, dang it. Oh, but you know, it's so funny. It now looking back, it's so hilarious. It's like, what was I thinking? Like, what was I thinking? to asking people to have worms in their house, not having repeat customers because the worms breed more than rabbits. So once you get worms, you have worms. And then I meet people, they're like, oh, I had so many worms. I gave some to my kid's school and I gave some to my neighbor. I'm like, yeah, stop giving your worms away. It's bad enough. It's hard enough already.
Yeah.
Now you're my competitor for free.
What was your message if your target customer were like these apartment dwellers? Like, what was your message for what they did with the castings? Because like, I mean, like not everyone gardens, so like, what did you want them to do with these castings?
Yeah, so for their house plants, for condos, I say if you don't have house plants, you can give them to the condo corp for landscaping. You could package them up in a nice package because worm poo is valuable. Gardeners love it. So if you have any gardening friends or family, that would be a great. Now your shopping's done. How fun! Here's some worm poo. I love you. Yeah, I mean it's water soluble. It's non-toxic. It's never a waste. You can give it away for sure, or you could sell it on Kijiji. Yeah. There's certainly options.
I guess the takeaways for you, like what are the thing in order for like good vermicomposting, like what are the key takeaways that people need to realize, I guess?
Yeah, creating the right environment. So I'll use a Rubbermaid tote as a guide, but any container will do. They need, just like outdoor composting, they need a carbon nitrogen mix. So the carbon indoor is shredded paper, could be leaves, straw, cardboard, drink trays, egg cartons, any kind of material like that. I would leave out magazine paper or magazines and like construction paper that get when the color comes out when it gets wet. So that's your bedding, but the worms eat that as well. About a liter of soil, so just a little shovel of soil, and shovel from somewhere outside where no chemicals have been applied. You don't want potting soil or something that came in a bag because it's sterilized. You're adding the soil because the worms don't have teeth and there's microorganisms in the soil.
There's microbes, yeah.
So that helps to break, it's all a whole beautiful ecosystem. You want to build up the microbes, the biology, and then they do the work. They're the heavy, the worms are the cleanup crew. All the microbes are, it's a beautiful system. Water and eggshells, that's it for your bedding. And then you add your worms in, and they're special worms. There are 4 types of worms that have been identified. Red wigglers, European night crawlers, African night crawlers, and perionyx, which is a tropical worm.
Okay.
Identify, I'm sure there's others. We're looking for surface dwellers. So the Canadian night crawler, when it lives below the frost line. So it goes up and down, and it doesn't eat nitrogen. So it wouldn't live in a container, and it wouldn't eat the food scraps. It would be trying to get out all the time. It would be like, how do I get out?
Yeah.
I'm stressed, and then it would just become part of the system.
So what do they feed on then?
So they eat leaves and the stuff in the garden. Like they eat the stuff from the garden. And then you add your food scrap water. Did I say water? Mix it all up, add your worms, and then when you're feeding your food scraps, bury it in the bedding. That's what I didn't do when I had the fruit flies, right? I just threw the stuff in. So fruit flies, I would love to address that. They're not a necessary component. And, when people go, I don't want to have fruit flies, it's like, okay, have you ever had fruit flies? And they say yes. And I say, okay, good. Have you ever had a worm bin? No. Okay, good. So you know that the fruit flies don't come from the worm bin because you've never had one. Okay. All right, first lesson, right? Because we think, oh my gosh, no. So I'm going to use bananas. When you bring the bananas home from the grocery store, they're yellow or green. As they start to get speckled and ripen, that's the perfect environment for the fruit fly eggs to hatch and fly around and bug us. And the fruit flies are on all the fruit. Just we wash the cherries or the apples or the pears and then eat it. Or we don't, but we eat it. So we peel the banana, and then they're still intact. So I suggest giving a quick rinse, washing off the fruit fly eggs. And if you get a container to allow your scraps to start to decompose, it's going to speed up the process. Because the worms don't have teeth, right? You can add your fresh stuff, but it's just going to take longer for it to get cooking.
Yeah. The washing of bananas is something we started to do more recently. We found that it really does control the fruit flies quite a bit. So as soon as we bring it from the store, we'll separate each of the bananas off the stem or whatever, and then we'll wash them all off. And then we found that really controls the fruit flies quite a bit.
Yeah, oranges too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now
Beautiful.
they say like citrus not a good thing for worms. They don't really like that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I don't know why. Well, orange peels because they often have fruit flies, but yeah. So yeah, I would say, you can put all your fruit and veg, coffee, tea, pasta, rice, beans, plant clippings, but you leave out citrus, onion, and garlic. And citrus, there's a toxic element in citrus that is antibacterial, antimicrobial. It's anti. So if it's anti, we want pro. We want the biotic stuff. So if it's anti, it's going to be killing your bacteria. So I don't even add. And they make there's a orange citrus cleaner you can get, like chemical cleaner that has citrus essence in it. So I would say leave the citrus out of even your backyard composter.
That was my next question is that, like, because we do a lot of trench composting, so I'll just bury everything, including all the citrus stuff. But you're saying, so that stuff you're thinking should just go to the garbage then?
Well, we have a green bin program. We have an organic.
We have
so
that too,
so I put all the stuff that I don't want to post in my yard. That's what I put in the green bin.
Yeah.
And I would put all that stuff, in there. Yeah, rather than in the garbage. Yes.
Yeah.
If it's the only place you have, I would say it's fine. Nature's going to look after it. But I do think that it may have a detrimental effect. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the castings themselves, like how long can you keep them before like actually embedding them in your garden? Like can it last for a while, or does that have to be used pretty quickly after you? We haven't done our harvest yet, so these are all kind of personal questions. Maybe nobody cares about this stuff, but I'm kind of selfish here. But how long do you have to, can you hold on to those castings before you can use them?
Yeah, you can keep them, if you store them outside, I would just keep them in an open container. So, because it's aerobic, so they can freeze. And then once they thaw, they're viable. You can dry them, and then once they get moist again, so that, like if you use them right away, they're more viable, but they're still fine to store. Yes.
Yeah.
And they're water soluble. The thing about the castings is, each little casting is like a time release capsule. The earth takes from it as it needs it. That you would never have too much. And if you want to make compost tea, not to drink, but for your plants, as liquid fertilizer, you can take some of the castings, put it in your watering jug, stir it up. It'll become tea color because it's water soluble. They dissolve. Water your plants. You can't really store the liquid because it's aerobic, meaning with oxygen. And it's just aerobic versus anaerobic is just the bacteria. It's just different biology. Aerobic meaning with oxygen, anaerobic without. Smelly, aka smelly. Plants always require aerobic bacteria. So if you put that liquid in a sealed container, the bacteria will eat the oxygen, and then it will become smelly, become anaerobic.
What do you do with the worm tea, like all the drained fluid that comes out of, like you can't, like I would have thought you could use that, but I hear that you can't. It's not really used. Like
if it smells really bad, I would discard it. I would just discard it if it smells bad, and then just brew up your own. If it doesn't smell bad, you can dilute and use it as liquid fertilizer for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Interesting stuff. I don't want to focus the entire thing on, because you have these other amazing businesses. So you have we talked about the Laughter Club, which I got to find time to either join your online session or find something in person, because now I'm really intrigued by that.
Come to me because I'm unique.
You are 100% unique, Cathy. I've loved this conversation so far. And then your worm business, and then you got like this sprouting business, and then you have something where I don't quite know the last business, so you're gonna have to tell me about it. But I think it was like around like certain coffee products or something. I don't know, but maybe I could be wrong there. But tell us about the last couple of businesses that you have.
Sprouting business, yeah. My working title, I didn't say my working title, is Cathy Crawly Laughing Bean Queen. So It's simple solutions for today's challenges. Worms for amending the soil, sprouts for eating, and laughter for overall health and wellness. And the sprouter, so it looks like a little spaceship.
Yeah.
It's a little plastic, seem like it's a beautiful thing. And that is a huge part of my health plan. And again, the universe is so interesting place when you pay attention. 2002, my very first exhibitor event with the worms, there was a gentleman, Tony Hornick, selling this super simple sprouter. That's what I call it. He called it the Tony Hornick sprouter. And he was 72 at the time, ballroom dancer.
Yeah.
He's still alive. He's, I think, going to be 95 this year. So he was in incredible shape, and I was amazed, 72 still working, by the way. I was like, wow, and vibrant and just lovely man. And I said, what is that thing? It was flying off the shelf. It does look like a spaceship, by the way. and why aren't they buying my worms? and so he told me all about, it's a sprout grower. And here, I'll tell you about sprouts. Oh my gosh. They're hydrating, alkalizing, regenerative, biogenic, and contain up to 100 times more digestive enzymes. So I'll just quickly, those sound like really fancy words. Hydrating. So as we are getting thirsty, we're already getting dehydrated. So they're juicy. Hydrating, what I say? Alkalizing. So
Alkalizing, yeah.
a lot of our food is acidic. So this is alkaline food. So this helps balance the pH. So beautiful. Regenerative. Alzheimer's is degenerative disease. Sprouts are regenerative. They're not that they'll bring back our memories, but they can rebuild our cells. How beautiful. Biogenic. Oh my gosh. Energy. So I have all this energy. Yeah, I eat biogenic food. Like laughter, yes. And biogenic food for 21 years.
Is it because it's sprouting, it's growing, right? It has that
live
sort of
food.
Yeah, live food, yeah.
Right, so I'm getting the energy of the food. So in 2002, when I asked Tony about that, that I don't need to know why something works. I'm just like, oh, look at you. I want what you have. I live my life by prevention. I don't want, like I talked about before, I don't want to hit rock bottom. Why would I want to go there? Like, oh, now you know where to go now. It's like, I don't want to go there. I want to go up first. Let's try that. Let's go that direction. I want to be different. Right? So I don't want to get sick and then get better. And for the longest time, Rupesh, now I know I have a story. But I thought for the longest time, I don't even have a story. Who wants to listen to somebody that's just being healthy? Boring. Like living her life so joyfully, look at her, look so fake. But when you get 60, you don't even give a crap anymore.
Yeah.
Like judge me all you want. I know people think sometimes I'm all flighty and whatever. I'm so deep, it hurts sometimes. That's why I have to have this light side. Otherwise, I'd be bawling in the corner. I have world peace and world hunger solved. And I believe it. I do believe it. I used to think worms were going to solve world hunger. Then when I started spreading, I was like, worms and sprouts are going to solve world hunger. And then I learned about mushrooms and I was like, worms and sprouts and mushrooms are going to solve world hunger. And now it's like worms and sprouts and mushrooms and laughter. So the coffee is a BC company, Organo Gold. It's high end. It's instant coffee, which is so beautiful. I was a coffee snob with my French press and whatever. So I was like, instant coffee, come on. But the thing is, it's infused with reishi mushroom. Okay. And reishi mushroom is, people can Google that, but it's super nutritious. It was not even available years ago to the peasants. It was only for royalty, for the emperors in China. So it's really super nutritious. Mushrooms are an adaptogen. So imagine if you're drinking your coffee and instead of getting acidic, you're becoming alkaline because the reishi makes it alkaline. Yeah. And then it goes in your body. Yeah, so, you can drink that coffee and not get the jitters. And I'm not really doing that as a business. It's in my tagline because I want people to know all the things that I do, all of my businesses is how I live my life. Yeah. I have worms to manage my scraps and make soil so I can grow more food. I do sprouting so that I can have... Sprouts are the original fast food, so I can grow my own super fast. The mushroom coffee, I drink that, and then I laugh every day.
I love all the different frames you have, like the way you just the things that you tell yourself, right? Like it's just, it's so... empowering, positive, but like there's so much truth to it too, and you simplify it in a way that just makes a lot of sense. So With the sprouts, like, are there certain sprouts that you like we should focus on? Like, are there certain sprouts that are better than others, I guess, or?
Yeah. So just a quick story that I have to scoot to my next
Yeah.
thing, and I'm sorry. Yeah. So Tony introduced me to, the bean sprouts in Chinese food. So those are mung beans. Those are the ones that those are the only ones that he uses. And for 10 years, they grow in the summer, it's 24 hours or less. It's the heat and humidity. In the winter, depending how warm you keep your place, 36 to 48 hours, because I keep my place cool. So you're rinsing twice a day. And then once the root is the size of the bean, that's when they're most nutritious. They're not the most nutritious, by the way, the mung beans, but they're the fastest. So they get bonus points for being super fast. And you have the enzymes. So they're amazing. I start my day every day with 2 tablespoons of those, 21 years. And for 10 years, that was the only bean that I sprouted because it's super fast. I have a attention span of a gnat, so anybody can do this. 7 seconds in the morning, rinse, 7 seconds at night. Because people are like, I don't have time. It's like, don't you have 14 seconds for you? Please. 14 seconds in one day, you can.
Yeah.
And you put it right beside your sink so you remember. Like it's right there. It's in your visual. Don't put it away because then it's away. You forget. Yeah. Okay, so you rinse, eating them in the morning, 10 years. So then in 2012, it was a big year. I seem to go every 10 years is a big year, it seems. I get something new. So 2012, I met Tony at another event and he said, hey, why don't you sell this sprouter with your business since you love it so much? And I was like, oh my God, why don't I? That's a great idea. And then I was selling it and people would ask me, what else can you sprout? And I would say, I don't know. I don't know. And then they would say, don't you get sick of mung beans? And I considered the mung beans, and I still do, my health plan. It's my multivitamin. It's what I do every day for my life. Why would I get sick of it? So then my response would be, would you get sick of feeling great and having tons of energy? Right? Back to the story. Yeah. People love saying, oh, I'm so tired. Oh, but I did all these things. We want to be the hero. Like I worked so hard. Even though I'm in this pain, I slogged away. And that's not how we're meant to live. If you're in pain, that's a message from the universe. Like, stop,
slow down,
get out of pain. When pain is not normal. It isn't. Yeah. But we live like it is. Like, oh, just take a pill. Don't. Just take a pill. Yeah. Okay. So then as a businesswoman, back to how I've ebbed and flowed, I was like, oh my gosh, what do I care if people want to eat mung beans or they don't? So I started to experiment chickpeas, lentils, fenugreek, radish. And I'm a sprouting monster now, Rupesh. I love them.
That's awesome.
And I'm eating all different kinds. So yes, some have different healing properties for sure. And like we're supposed to eat the rainbow, I would say eat all different legumes. Eat all different beans because they're full of protein. If people are looking for a meat alternative, lots of protein in legumes. There's lots of fiber, vitamins. I used to say you can eat as much as you want, but you can't. Because they're full of fiber, they're nutrient rich. Yeah. Like the soil that the worms make. See all the beautiful, it's all
it is
one.
Amazing. It's amazing. It? Yeah, it is amazing.
I gotta run. I'm so sorry.
I know. I'm mindful of your time. I just want to ask you one last question, which is a question we ask every guest.
Oh, yes.
That's okay. I'll skip the 5 for dinner question because sometimes I can take a little bit of time, unless you want to do that. But
I do want to.
Okay, so our 2 questions that we ask every guest: 5 for dinner, dead or alive. Who are 5 people you'd want to have a meal with?
I wrote a list because I really did think about this. So I would say David Suzuki, Jane Goodall, John Lennon, Donna Eden, who does energy work, Robin Williams, and I have a 6th one, Dalai Lama.
You know what? I probably could have guessed those for you, honestly. Like those make, I could see those totally. That's amazing. That's a great list.
Wouldn't that be a great dinner party?
100%. Yeah.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, last question. Besides the circle of life, what do you know for sure?
I know, KNOW, that it's no for sure unless you ask. That's what I know for sure. That's my operating principle.
Yeah. Lovely. Cathy, love this conversation. Honestly, I could talk to you for another hour. I've learned so much. I love the way you frame things. Your energy is so contagious, and I'm really this was an opportunity of a lifetime this week for me to be able to meet you and be able to connect this way. And I really do appreciate the time. It's been a very genuine conversation. So thanks for making time for me, and look forward to connecting in the future.
I'll see you in Laughter Club.
Okay. Take care, Cathy.
Oh, thank you, Rupesh. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks everyone for joining.
Oh, I gotta
See ya.
stay.